Hi friends, today I'm going to show you how a hacker can break into an unsecured FTP, so a file transfer protocol. So we're going to attack an unsecured FTP server. So you might wonder, what does that mean? It's simply a Linux computer running an app called FTP. And this FTP app, it lets other people connect and transfer files back and forth. And of course, in the most situations, that should be secured with a password. But that's not always the case. So let's see how an attacker might break into such a system. So first, it will decide on its target. In this case, we'll use a fictional target called Acme Inc. So you see, we can check if that server is online, if that computer is online with the ping command. If it tells you reply, you know that it's online. So we got 64 bytes, meaning it's online. And this is its address. So the address, this is the human readable address, but this is the address on the network or on the internet. You see, it's a 4-digit number separated by dots called an IP address or an IP version 4 address. That's every computer has such a unique address. So now we know the address of this computer. We can then start to inspect it, similar to if an attacker would look at different houses and see which kind of doors are in the house, which kind of windows and so on, before they actually break in. So the same kind of thing you can do with a computer. And for that, they typically use the tool Nmap. So they simply type Nmap, which will inspect all the parts of the computer and tell you which apps are running. So we copy this address from our target and paste it in, and then press enter. Now it's now scanning it, and it will return which services or which apps are running on that Linux computer. So in this case, we have two services running. We have one on port 21 and one on port 22. You'll see they are open. The doors are open, as so to speak, and it's an FTP application and SSH application. So FTP is for file transfer, uploading and downloading files, and SSH is even more dangerous. It lets you remotely control the computer. Similar to a remote desktop, but then over the terminal. So we're going to connect to this FTP server and see if it has any if it has any password at all. So we can simply type FTP, then we can pick a user, let's say anonymous, see if they allow anonymous login, and then the target internet address. For the password, we simply press enter, and we're in. It doesn't have any password in this case. So it can be some systems by default that don't have the password set, and then you can simply log in as an attacker. So boom, we are in, no password, no security, and now we can see what's inside. For example, with the ls commands, we can list the files and folders, and in this case there's a welcome message and nothing else. But it could be there are more sensitive files in there. Maybe some files about logins or other information that the attacker could then download and use to gain more access. Perhaps there's usernames in there or other type of personal data. So that might be the case with FTP services. Now you can download and upload files. For example, we could say get with the file name. So in this case, get welcome.message. You can also delete files and upload files. So you might say put some file.txt that would upload it. So basically we have some access into the system because they left it unsecured. So there you have it. So an unsecure FTP is like leaving the front door of your door open. So in a dangerous neighborhood. So if you're running an FTP server, make sure to turn off anonymous access so that the attacker or any attacker won't simply log in through the door. So besides this, no password at all, also make sure that you don't have any of the default passwords. Let's talk about one of the most common security risks in Linux FTP server, anonymous access. Anonymous access lets anyone connect to the Linux computer without passwords and seriously putting your files at risk. So we've seen in the previous video how an attacker simply logged in to the computer. You can disable that. So let's get started. So before fixing the problem, let's see what actually happens. So we can type FTP with our local address. So this is always the address of your own computer. And type anonymous, enter, And if you can log in, that means that it's the anonymous login is allowed. So let's make sure to disable that. So we can clear the screen and we're going to change that. So this depends on the type of FTP server you have. So in this case, you'll see I have a Pro FTPD server, but it depends if you have VS FTPD or Pro FTPD. Your configuration file might be somewhere else. So you can take a look. So you have a folder Pro FTPD and then proftpd.conf. Once we open it, we want to look for a line for anonymous login or anonymous. So here we find anonymous login, and we can simply disable that or remove all of that from the config. So you'll see it starts with this anonymous tag here on top, a lot of details, and then at the end it ends. So we can simply remove all of that. In Nano Editor you can hold Ctrl-K and remove all of that. And then press Ctrl-O to save and Ctrl-X to quit. So now it changed in the config file, but in order for it to work, we need the FTP server, the program, to actually reload. So we can do that with this command. In this case, it's proftpd, so that will restart the FTP server. Now that it's reloaded, let's see that a new configuration works. So if we try to log in as anonymous, you'll see we can no longer log in. It says login incorrect, login failed. So we now protected ourselves against this type of attack. So this is for Pro FTPD. If you use VS FTPD, it's similar. So if you use VS FTPD, we have a similar config file. And then you'll see anonymous enable, and then change that to no. And then restart DS FTPD. So depending on which FTP server you use. But the principle is the same. You just simply disable the anonymous login, and then this kind of attack no longer works. Now, alternatively, you could disable FTP altogether if you don't need it. So if you're running FTP, like in this case, we find out a response, we could simply disable it altogether. So we could simply say, simply disable the, well, first stop it. We could simply disable the FTP server, or stop it, disable it, and then remove it from the computer. So now FTP is no longer running as an application at all. And if we then try to log in, we get connection refused. It's no longer on this Linux computer. So that's an alternative than simply disabling anonymous access. If you don't use it at all, you might as well delete it.